Thank you, Mr. Adams. Unless you think that this was only a male thing, Ruth Harper is going to give us the other perspective.
Thank you. And thank you, Sam Adams. That was great. Of course, as we know, the Tea Party was only the beginning. It was the beginning of a very hard time for Boston. And of course, the word spread out through the other colonies after the Boston Harbor had been blockaded. Sure, is that better? Okay. Is somebody running a radio or something?
Yeah. Stop the radio.
Anyway, I'll try to holler over it, I guess. The word got out to the other colonies and so on. You remember when Virginia heard about it, their reaction in the form of Patrick Henry was, of course, the speech which began about the next storm clouds that blow in from the north and ended with, "Give me liberty or give me death." But everywhere the people were concerned, and one of the first major events following the Tea Party was in 1775. April 18th was, of course, Paul Revere's ride to warn the local, the militia, the local citizenry, the armed citizenry, not pawns of Britain, not pawns of any government, but to get them to meet the force of Brits who were coming out of Boston to steal their arms. That's what it was all about. The armaments were stored in the at Concord, and the British were coming through Lexington and Concord. And lest you think that this is only for that military action is only for young people, let me tell you about Sam Whittemore, one of our neighbors there in the Lexington area. Sam Whittemore was 78 years old. He was partially crippled, but he got around. He had a rifle and 2 pistols and a cavalry saber. And he went down to the stone wall that blocked the road from the property, and he took his stand there. And when the British came, he'd pick off one, set that gun down, pick off another, set that gun down, pick off another, the third, and then he had to reload and do it again. He was so accurate that the commanders decided they had to get rid of him. So they sent a contingent of men to subdue this one 78-year-old man. The contingent, as they approached, lost 1 to the rifle and 1 to each pistol, and then he drew his saber as they jumped him. They were pretty ferocious. They shot him in the face. They went into kind of a frenzy with their bayonet, and everybody got their licks in. And when poor Sam Whittemore was dragged to the doctor just shook his head. He didn't see how a man with such injuries and at his age could survive. But you know, Sam Whittemore was a patriot and he had other ideas. He did survive, and he watched as his country defeated the British, saw the Continental Congress, the writing of the Constitution, the ratification of the Constitution, and the election of George Washington. He had 18 good years before he gave it up in his 97th year. Just another quick one. You know, the Brits they didn't really relish this giving up business. So in 1812, they came back again. And that time, they did a lot of things. They'd send their ships around to harbors to set them on fire when people were off guard and so on, as well as the more famous war things you've heard. But I want to tell you just for a minute about an American army of two. It was Situate, Massachusetts. The HMS Bulwark had been in there in the early summer. They had burned some 7 ships, caused all kinds of damage and heartache and property loss and so on. The town had developed a militia, but when weeks went by and nothing happened, they kind of let down their guard. So one afternoon, while the lighthouse keeper was in town, the militia people who used to practice on the grounds of the lighthouse, they had left behind a couple of items, and it's a good thing. You see, there were 2 girls, the daughters of the lighthouse keeper, Rebecca Bates and her sister. They were 16 and 14, I think, at the time. And when Rebecca saw the ship come in, she ran to get her sister. They realized they didn't have time to run to town to put out the alarm. They didn't expect their dad to be back in time. But they had the drum and the fife that the militia had used. And Rebecca said, "I'll take the drum and you take the fife." And they hid behind a dune, and she was a little concerned. She said, "Don't let them see us or they'll laugh us to scorn." But hiding there, they began as loudly as they could to play Yankee Doodle. And of course, Yankee Doodle had originally been written to mock the Patriots, but they simply adopted the tune and used it everywhere. So when the longboat had put out from the bulwark and heard the strains coming from behind the dunes, they decided that the militia was ready for them. So they did what collectivists tend to do. They turned tail and ran. They put up a sign. Couple quick points. I think I've been probably run out of my time here.
Yes.
But I do want to mention that we have been in the freedom business for, well, this is our 44th year. We have a bookstore in Plainfield about a quarter-mile north of Leonard on the west side, and we have been supplying literature and signs like the "Don't tread on us," the flag, and so on. We have these things there, and we invite you all to come over, get involved, and we've got to stick together. You know, for too long, we've thought we were alone or whatever. We're not alone. The store again when this is over, and I hope to see you then and many times thereafter. And I hope that you will participate in voting and take the things that people are handing out, learn what you can and do what you can. Use your own judgment. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but I suggest, as I once said to somebody, I'm not going to tell you how to think, but I suggest you do.
Ruth, that's great advice. We're in the position we are today because too many Americans didn't think, take responsibility, work for candidates, and vote. Okay, we were dumb, but whose fault is it? It's we the people. Who's going to take it back? We the people.